Hey everyone, it's Jake Perry-Ellis here talking to you about my book that I'm reading, Death by Black Hole by Neil deGrasse Tyson. Neil deGrasse Tyson being an astrophysicist who was the host of Cosmos: A Space-Time Odyssey. It's a series on Netflix. I highly recommend watching it. The book, Death by Black Hole and Other Cosmic Quandaries, is a non-fiction book that delves into astronomy, astrophysics, and physics. It was published in 2007 and is a compilation of all of Neil deGrasse Tyson's essays the in a magazine. Uh, I would recommend this book to people that like science fiction, who like astronomy, or will take an astronomy class in the future. If you're taking an astronomy class in the future, this book does cover brief topics like astronomers that are very important to know, types of telescopes and constellations, which by taking an astronomy class, I know that those were topics that were covered. People that are interested in astronomy will like this book because it offers topics that you may not have known about, like topics relating to pop culture, which I personally liked that section. If you like sci-fi, that might be a reason why you read this book, is because it does talk about certain things like interstellar travel and solar system colonization. So that could be kind of go right up your alley. The overall rating, I'd give it around an 8 out of 10, and I'll delve into a little bit of that near the end. This book is very similar to Neil deGrasse Tyson's show, Space Time Odyssey. It talks about uh, astrophysics and astronomy topics that are very complex, and they like simplify it down. A Cosmos Space Time Odyssey offers visuals though, and he narrates it personally. It makes a lot of jokes in it. It's a very good series. I highly recommend it, but it does cover basically some of the same stuff in this, not specifically, but kind of like broad topics. And it's very easy to learn. So yeah, I like that a lot. Uh, Next up, the protagonist and supporting characters. So, because it's a compilation of nonfiction essays, there's not really a lot of characters, but there are real people mentioned throughout the many sections and chapters. So, Isaac Newton is one of them that's mentioned a lot because he discovered the universal law of gravitation and wrote it down. And later, Einstein expanded on this with his theory of relativity, which applied to Newton's law of gravity and applied that to high mass objects. So, you see those two a lot in the book with a lot of their theories and equations that they've written down and how they've helped astronomy in the past. The setting, time, and place. So it goes kind of all around the universe. It talks about astronomy. It's going to do that. Earth is a pretty big factor in a lot of them, where it talks about early humans that worship the stars like gods, and it also talked about the heat death of the universe. So kind of like the beginning and the end game for humans, essentially. It also talked about the sun as like a nebula and how it's going to its death as a red giant. So the beginning and end of that. It also went as far as to go into other galaxies like Andromeda, which is the nearest galaxy to us, and how we can view that. Alpha Centauri, which is our closest star system, about 4 light years away, and how we can view that and see planets that orbit it, and how we can actually measure that. Some connections I made to this was Carl Sagan and how he's also an astrophysicist and astronomer. He was popular during the 80s. He was a host of a Cosmos: A Personal Voyage, which was the predecessor to Cosmos: Space Time Odyssey. Is what it was based around. Uh, I haven't really seen that series so far, but I'm assuming it's around the same thing. Carl Sagan did a lot of speeches in the 80s, and I've watched a few of those. He talks about astronomy in a very simple format, as well as Neil deGrasse Tyson, and that you can kind of relate that to the book. It's like the same writing style. Uh, Carl Sagan had a speech, "Pale Blue Dots." You can probably find it on YouTube. It's very interesting. It's what got me into astronomy. Uh, he can do like these. He can word things in a way that's very entertaining to many people that can relate to him. Talks about history. It's very interesting and it kind of relates to the book. Cool quotes that I got is when talking about photons escaping the sun, so light. It talks about how after fusion from helium to hydrogen, or hydrogen to helium, sorry, it talks about the photon released takes a long time to exit, which is something I didn't know. So the quote is, "The easy part is the light's jaunt from sun to earth through the void of interplanetary space. The hard part is the light's million-year adventure to get from the sun's center to its surface." So I personally didn't know that. I really like that quote because it kind of gives you a new perception on the sun. I personally used to think that it was kind of a constant beam of photons, but now it's actually no. It actually takes a long time for this to occur. You're actually getting sunlight from a very long time ago when it was formed. So, pretty interesting quote, I thought. Literary criticism. I did a historical criticism because basically this book would not be possible in the past. So Neil deGrasse Tyson, he's an African American astronomer teaching of new planets, non-centered universe, and how we are within a galaxy. All these concepts were not accepted back in the day, like in the 1500s. In fact, astronomers like, I'm going to butcher this name, Giordano Bruno, who was burned at the stake by the Catholic Church for ideas such as this. Not also the fact that Neil deGrasse Tyson is African American, people that were not very well treated in the past. If you've taken any sort of history class, this combo would have made them not really last long in the past. About this, what I liked about this book is I personally just like astronomy, and it's just very interesting scientific field, I think, to see like all these extreme cases of very powerful entities like stars and black holes and nebula. It's very interesting to me. I'd give this a rating 8 out of 10. I personally liked reading it, but I can see how other people's might not like reading this. I would steer away from it if you don't like these kind of like data, because data is something that's brought up a lot, numbers and stuff. If you don't like science, I definitely don't recommend reading this, but if you do, maybe give it a look. Maybe read the back of it, see if you find it interesting. Teens might connect to this because the book discusses the origin of life, origin of the universe. Hey, we live in the universe. You might find that kind of relatable. You live here, so why not? And again, I'd recommend this book to like sci-fi readers and people who are interested in astronomy. It does delve deep into those aspects, and I think you might like those book. All right, thanks for listening.